Okay, so moving on to the intake. Let's go with this carb. I mentioned this before in the 350 video, I think. The owner sent a bunch of spare parts with it, so it's pretty nice. He's got brand new bellows, I think they call it, or something like that, but basically your intake boot and holder and everything. So same as the 350, the factory fix is to send you a new partition and this clamp, okay? And the new partition is just round. I don't know. Oh, here it is. I cut it off, but it's just round. It doesn't have these ears on it like the factory one does, or the original one, I should say. And their solution is this clamp, and you just squeeze it. Anyways, it's that kind of clamp that goes around there. I don't like them. I think they are lackluster at best. They're better than, you know, it's by all means it's better than this being your clamping point, okay? But it's not the best. So I cut the rings off of those personally. 372 clamp will fit this perfectly. 372 XP. The OE edition, not the X Torque. The X Torques are a little bigger. 395 XP, or I believe the 372 X Torque clamps will fit if you leave this, just trim these tabs off and leave the main plastic ring there. But ones I find I like best, seem to work best, or I have on hand more times than not, are intake clamps off of a still. The 034, 036, 038. I'm sure there's others that fit, but they're this style. Okay. And they are same as the 372 and stuff, but they're a much more positive clamp. Right? It's screwed down tight. It's not relying on two pieces of metal or a tab or anything to hold it, and I don't know how you could beat this, so that's what I use. Just pure peace of mind more than anything, but I don't have to worry about it. So when you put this on the cylinder, it goes on just like that. You can tighten down your clamp from the side. There's no plastic ring there, it's just the intake boot. It goes right on there. So anywho, that's what I do. I just get rid. I don't even buy them anymore. I don't think they clamp tight enough personally, and I don't think they hold. So he was nice enough to send one along, so I used the brand new partition, brand new intake boot, but we're going to put a 034 clamp on it. We'll use this little hose that was on the original one. It's in really good shape, but you can just take a piece of the normal factory line like this, factory fuel line. You just clip a little short section off the end of it and it'll work perfect. But this one's in great shape, so we're going to reuse it. No reason not to. Okay. That's the impulse line coming from through the partition there up into the carb. So you just have to make sure when you're pushing these on that that little nipple goes inside of there. You can, sometimes I'll draw with a pencil on there or a pen or something to mark it, but you can figure out if you try and push it on like this sideways, it won't go on, and then you spin it just ever so slightly and pretty soon it'll slip right in. Such a better means of clamping the boot on there, in my opinion. Some may disagree, but the ones I built and what I found, it's the best there is. Okay. It ain't going anywhere. So, some people will put the whole carb and everything on right now. I don't myself. I find it a little easier to do it later, but to each their own. So, okay, so we're getting ready to put this top end back on, and I like to make sure you ever pull the base gasket off of a saw and it doesn't pull off. Old. So what I like to do before I put a gasket on is I just take a little premix oil, rub it around all the surfaces. If you have a paper gasket, it'll help kind of soften it up so all the fibers smush together. But more than anything, what it does is it keeps it from, I mean, a lot of heat for prolonged periods of time, not much you can do about it. They're going to stick, but I'll take all the help I can get. If for some, I mean, I really hope this doesn't have to come back apart, but if for some reason someone took it apart for something, you know, hopefully down the road, these would just pull off and not be stuck onto where you got to scrape it off of there. So put the ring in. I like to coat it first. Take some of my finger, get it on the piston and the groove there a little bit. Okay. Smoky startup, but I'll usually take and dump some a little on the main bearing down there. Just make sure it's all got plenty on it when it first fires off. We got piston all oiled up, gasket in place, oil on the crank, oil on the rings, oil everywhere. We're making progress now. Okay. Usually take a little blue Loctite for good measure. Not necessary, but I do it. Nice little peace of mind. Okay. Sure my end gap is on the locating pin. Okay. And I'll usually start all 4 head bolts while the cylinder's still up, and I can through the gasket. If that makes sense. I can make sure all the bolts are actually going directly into the gasket. You know, I don't have it twisted and I'm pinching it funny or anything like that. Get all four of them started, and then I'll go ahead and push the cylinder down. And once I got all 4 started, then I know my gasket isn't going to twist or get bind up or do anything funny. Make sure my partition's where it needs to be at there. Shove her down home. Whoops. There we go. Like barely hand tight. You can roll it through, snug them up. All right, starting to look like a saw again. Switch the handlebar mount over off the old cylinder. Might have to change the angle of that later, but that should be close. And as much as you want to slap it back together and have it running, the proper thing to do at this point is to do a vacuum pressure test. Not fun. Nobody wants to take the time to do it. No, I shouldn't say nobody. I don't want to. I want to see the thing run, man. Let's go. So we're gonna sandwich a little piece of rubber in between there. Put the bolts in. Walk off the exhaust. Do a vacuum pressure test before we get any further. Okay, so vacuum and pressure testing is an important part. Might as well find out if you have a leak right now before you get too far. So I take and just sandwich a piece of rubber between the carb and the boot and the intake there. Sandwich a piece between the muffler. You can buy, I got plates made for steel saws, but I don't have any for this right now. So I just use a muffler, sandwich that piece of rubber in between there, seals it off. And I have an adapter I use to go in the spark plug hole if need be, but if I can, I like to use the impulse line if it's got an external one. Impulse line is a much more positive fit than using the plug hole, so you get a little more accurate reading. What the? Okay, moment of truth. Hopefully we don't have a leak. Let's see what happens. So we're looking like we're doing all right. So, and it's holding. So seals are good. We don't need to worry about messing around with those if we don't have to. Pressure test. It's holding. We're good. Anyways, that makes me happy. They don't all go like that. Sometimes you get them back together and you got a seal that leaks or something going on. So that's a feel-good moment right there. So we'll pull the rubber out, get the carb assembled back on there, and put some gas in it. So that's making contact. And he sent us a new throttle rod, I do believe. Yep. Old throttle rod, punched right through the end. Happens on these. Especially guys who are trying to get that extra little bit out of it by smashing the trigger. So, here's the replacement one. We'll put that one on there. I believe at one point in time he wasn't getting full throttle travel. Could be wrong. Slides in there. I love the throttle setup on these. They're so dirt simple and easy to work on. So easy. Oh yeah. Spring back under there. Oh yeah, we are in business. We are going to address an oil leak because there's one on here that is like all of them. Oops, sorry, I'm all over the place here. So that oil pickup tube was not seated where it needed to be. That's usually where they leak anyway, so try and clean it up and get some goop around there and seal it up, but that's what's going on with that leak anyways. It's usually not the pump or anything else. What it ends up being is right here, this is the hose that goes into the tank, okay? See if I can get you closer so you can see. I wish I had. I'll pull a stock photo offline or online or however you want to say that. Post a picture in the video here so you can see what this hose actually looks like. But this is where it comes out of the side of the case. Okay, the oil tank's behind here, right? Well, this almost always I've found is where they leak from. When you put your saw on the shelf and it pukes oil everywhere, this is where it's coming from. It's coming from around this sealing surface right here. Okay. Hopefully this is coming through clear. So the best fix is to get a new hose because the rubber is nice and supple and it fits nice and tight. What I do even on new hoses, but if I don't have a new hose, I'm reusing the old one, is take this out right here, pull the hose, clean up, get some isopropyl alcohol or whatever you want to use, and wipe it out really good and get all that area completely cleaned. And then just take some 3-bond or Yama bond or whatever you want, you know, gasket maker, and coat the back side of that hose. Like I said, I'll put a picture in the video here so you can see where. But get it all on there and then push it back in there and let it seal up before you put oil in it, or before you tip it back upright and let oil soak it. And 9 times out of 10, you will not have an oil leak anymore. So that's the fix for these things. Every one of them I've encountered has that same oil leak, and that's where it comes from every time. So one more little something to put in the memory bank. Okay, so I guess I should have shown this too, but once you get your clutch and everything off, there's lots of videos on how to do that. There's just an Allen head here and an Allen head here. This whole plate comes off. Once that comes off, you have your oil pump. There's just an Allen head bolt there and there. And then this will come out. You wiggle it just right. Well, doing this one-handed kind of sucks, but this hose will come out. Then your oil pump will pull out. It's not that hard. I'm just trying to do it while looking through the camera. Anywho, it comes out like that. And that's how you get to that hose. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so here we are. The joys of working on used saw. Okay, so here we are. Got this clutch side torn off, and the oil pump worm gear decided to eat itself. It's kind of common on these. They get hot. Not saying this owner, but at some point in its life, clutch drum got hot, kind of melted this outer ring. It actually melted this and then pushed into the seal and ate the seal up. So I have another 2159 on hand that I'm building right now, so I pulled the drive gear off of that. And somebody's obviously been into this saw before, because this is a Husqvarna worm gear. They're exactly the same, but the Jonsered ones are black. So anyways, we're gonna get a new oil pump drive gear put in there. This one's in better shape. But the worst part about that is that it ate into the seal, so we're gonna see if we can get it pulled here. These sometimes are kind of tricky. I should say they're always kind of tricky. Oy.
Hey, babe.
Yeah. Yeah.
The kids are due for dentist appointments. Would you be up for taking them tomorrow?
Sure.
We can do that.
Oh, there we go. All right. So there's a million pullers out there. This type, a bunch of other kinds. I find my favorite one is just this small screwdriver with a hook cut into it. Fits right down next to the crank, doesn't scar it up. Doesn't take much once you get it in there, in behind the seal. It doesn't take much of a twist like that, and it hooks the lip, and you can just pry it out of there.